Good morning, one and all. Honorable speakers of today's webinar, Honorable Chairperson of the College Governing Council, and dear participants. It's my proud privilege to welcome you all for the one-day national webinar on the theme Changing Role of Teachers in the Post-COVID Scenario, Opportunities and Challenges. Friends, as we all know, we are blessed very much with our profession of teaching. And what Arya Chanakya says, शिक्षक कोई साधारण आदमी नहीं होता, प्रलय और निर्माण उसकी गोद में पलते हैं. अर्थात teacher is never an ordinary person. It is the construction and destruction which belong to him. This aptly underlines our roles and responsibilities in nation building. Today, in a very high, uncertain, and ambiguous circumstances, we as teachers need to understand our responsibilities as education is the powerful tool for bringing about change. This webinar aims at intellectual dialogue among academicians, teachers on such issues which highlight the necessity of embracing change and to bring about the same change through not only our mindset but in reality. The whole day we are going to bring a feast in terms of lectures organized through the eminent speakers who are really an experts in education. It is said by Dr. Avdesh Kumar Singh, the present VC of Aura University, that education has passed through 4 different phases. The first phase is of Kanthastha, which is nothing but the Gurukul system. The second stage is Granthastha, which was initiated after the discovery of printing press. The fourth one is Digitalastha, which we are all witnessing, and now is coming the Avakashastha, in which we are actually staying. To understand this evolution, we have given one session to know the changing phase of education, which will be handled by Dr. R.S. Deshpande sir. As we all know, the concept of Industry 4.0, which calls for the transformation of world through technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and whatnot. Obviously, therefore, the reflections of changes in this Industry 4.0 would be seen in terms of jobs, labor market, and therefore there is a new concept like Education 4.0, which means in order to make our education system compatible with the demands of the industry, we will have to bring about changes in the content, delivery, and overall syllabus, and imparting skills to the students in order to make them employable, because that is ultimately very important aspect so far as our students are considered. Friends, whether we like it or not, we have to accept that technological changes will have its implications for education. Today we are all having our webinar in a virtual world. So what are the foundations of such research with the help of training of technology, including the choice of tools and the examination pattern? Further, adjustment with all these changes is going to bring lot of stress and somewhere incapacity to have adjustment, at least first mentally. Therefore, this hesitation, frustration, and lot of stress, how do we handle it as teachers? What type of repercussions would there be of these changes on the students? And we need to move from stress to eustress, which is nothing but from negativity to positivity. I'm sure you will have really an academic feast all throughout the day, although we are all working from home. Meanwhile, let me request our own Chairman of College Governing Council, Honorable Shri Udayji Kekar sir, for his blessings for the webinar. Mr. Udayji Kekar sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Myself, Uday Kelkar, Chairman of the College Governing Council, Adarsh Vidyalaya of Arts and Commerce. Friends, when our dear principal think that we should do something post Corona, when all is locked down, and he think that we should do something for betterment of the students, and the role of the teacher should be known to all teachers. That's why we are having webinar on this subject. Madam, today's speakers, of course, their vast experience and knowledge will give you, all of you who joined us, and within 8 hours, 500 people have registered their willingness to have membership in this. I think this is a fantastic thing. The people at home think they should get. And all this, I thanks my principal for having this such of seminar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Kekar sir, for your kind words and moral support as always. Friends, now let me introduce you our first speaker, Honorable Dr. R.S. Deshpande. I confess, it's really a Herculean task. The person who has dedicated his whole life to the education and research and is still active like a youth is just beyond words. Yet, I dare it. Dr. R.S. Deshpande is former director of Indian Institute of Social and Economic Change at Bangalore. During his tenure as director ISEC, he has achieved great success. He holds a Bachelor of Science and Master's degree with PhD in Economics. Initially, he worked as a faculty member at ISEC till 1988 and then shifted to Pune for joining Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, where he ultimately became the registrar. In 1998, he returned back to the institute at Bangalore and worked as professor and then head of Agriculture Development and Rural Transformation Center and became the director of ISEC. His specializations include agricultural development policy, watershed development, WTO agriculture and trade, rural policy and poverty, economics of drought-prone areas, rain-fed regions, economics of irrigation and applied econometrics. No wonder Dr. Deshpande has been a recipient of PNASF Gold Medal for his contributions to agricultural policy and Vishveshwaraya Global Leadership Award for Excellence in Education. He has been awarded the prestigious Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship of the Indian Council of Social Sciences Research, Government of India. He was on the search committee for selection of vice chancellors for many universities, including Osmania, Pune, Bangalore, and many other. He was also a member of the search committee for director of Institute of Madras for Development Studies and AN Institute at Patna. He was the president of the Platinum Jubilee Conference of Indian Society of Agriculture Economics that was held at Punjab, Ludhiana in 2015. Professor Deshpande has authored 27 books and more than 200 research papers published in national and international prestigious journals. He was invited as the visiting professor to the University of Ottawa, Canada, Sweden, Australia, as well as to the Institute of Policy Planning. He has also worked as a consultant to many organizations in India and abroad like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, Land Equity Australia. His contributions to agriculture economics have been widely recognized by the Indian Society of Agriculture Economics, and he has been awarded the Fellow of the Society in 2011. He has delivered many keynote addresses and prestigious memorial lectures like Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Memorial Lecture, Professor V.M. Dandekar Lecture, etc. Under his guidance, 10 students were awarded PhD, and he has also advised help 11 students for completing their PhD. He has been the PhD evaluator in Indian universities and also abroad. Professor Deshpande has contributed immensely as a member of many policy making bodies, which include advisory body of the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Agriculture, Planning Commission, Government of India, WTO cell of Government of India, Committee on Farmer Suicides appointed by Government of Karnataka, etc. He was the sole architect of Karnataka's Agriculture Policy 2006 and many developmental policies. Apart from all this, Professor Deshpande is a great poet, a painter, and a social activist. Professor Deshpande stands for quality as far as I know him. In fact, I would say Professor R.S. Deshpande is equal to quality. These are simply two synonymous words. So, we are singularly fortunate to have Dr. R.S. Deshpande sir amidst us, and he is going to inaugurate our seminar and also to give us guidance. May I request Deshpande sir to guide us? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Uh, uh, Thank you, Professor Dattardar. It was very nice. It was very nice to listen about to oneself. In fact, Manusha Stuti Priyaha, and one should not go far beyond Stuti because one has to stay on ground, and I'm a grounded person. I would like to share the screen so that people will understand what I speak, because the audio is not very clear, and therefore I would like the friends to see from the screen what I am talking. I have chosen today to speak about changing face of education. Independent education must be value addition to the knowledge, and the value addition comes out. In fact, way back when we started the examination system, the value addition should come out in the examination. But unfortunately, as we do always, the students prepare during the examination time, write the examination, and within 1 week forget everything. I meet quite a few big people, and when you ask basic answer, I the program which Shah Khan was doing on the TV, Kya aap Panchvi pass hai? And I have seen people who have done their IITs, doctors, engineers, and highly qualified also failed in the simple calculations or simple things which were asked, which they have done in the school days. And therefore, it's a value addition and not a commodity. That's my first point. And since it is not a commodity, whether COVID or post-COVID, it needs to be a value addition, and value addition face to face is far better than value addition from a distance learning. Knowledge institution, as I told you, teacher and student. If the teacher imparts the knowledge, student has to imbibe the knowledge. And this process of imbibing is not simply the responsibility of the student, but also to the responsibility of the teacher who makes it interesting. Therefore, knowledge assimilation and getting education are two different things. Knowledge assimilation can be anywhere in any place. When I was constructing a girls' hostel in the institution, I had an engineer on my right side. This engineer was highly experienced, and he used to ask questions to the site engineers from the government. You know what was the education of this engineer? He was just a mason, 7th standard passed. But he knew what kind of steel has to be used, where it has to be tied, what is the gauge, what is the diameter of the rod, how it should be tied, what should be the weight, how the corner has to be, and this is called knowledge. It doesn't come by education. Here who was from the government side was mutely listening to this young person. I employed his son, but he's far. Therefore, replace the empty mind with an open one to accept knowledge and imbibe. There are two drivers of quality. And unfortunately, these two drivers have really metamorphosed the quality of education. The first driver is employability. And this word employability has come from the person who is one of the architect of India's industrial revolution in softwares, Mr. Narayan Murthy. Narayan Murthy had said that today, when the engineers pass out from the engineering colleges, they are of no use to me. 80% of them, they don't understand anything. And therefore, employability, which he felt has to be incorporated in the education. I agree. But then I had a question in the same seminar that Mr. Narayan Murthy was an engineer, electrical engineer. That time electronics was not there. He became a software wizard. Now, when he became a software wizard, he started in his college portals not with software. Exactly the way I am educated. Ma'am Daftardar has talked about me in agriculture economics. He has got this gold medal. He has got that. He has got that. Agriculture economics was never my subject. I never learned agriculture economics as a student in any class, in any classroom. No teacher taught me agriculture economics, but I excelled in agriculture economics to chair the annual Platinum Jubilee Conference of India's agricultural economists. I had knowledge assimilation, not education. And therefore, knowledge assimilation is essential component of post-COVID education. Stability and market, yes, they should be there, but they are something like horses of the cart. They should drive the cart at the will of the cart driver and not at their will. Unfortunately, we allow employability and market to drive the cart at their will, not at the will of the driver. Now, further we get into some observations. There are quite a few changes in the college. These phases are very important phases. The first is assimilation phase. Assimilation is a thing for which the laboratory is the entire world. You walk on the road, and when the cobbler is stitching your shoes, you need to know how the stitch is put and how it is pulled out. And if necessary, also know what kind of instrument is there and where did he learn that instrument, who is the engineer who manufactured that instrument, or who is the one who had the brainwave of making certain things. Assimilation of knowledge is the first phase. Hereditary learning and within family. Earlier days, in the long back, a carpenter's son was not to be taught carpentry, was learning it. A blacksmith's son or daughter were learning it in the profession itself by looking at it. My father was a teacher. My grandfather was a teacher. My great-grandfather was a teacher. And so I am a teacher. Now, learning the teaching methodology from my father was something very good. And if you ask my students, one of my students described that I throw the student in deep waters and we learn swimming. Something which the teacher do. Teacher is, and this is a very important sentence, teacher is not supposed to exhibit his or her own knowledge and the span of the knowledge in front of a young boy or a girl who have just come out of the school. In fact, teacher must learn from them and allow them to pick from your activities. Understanding and copying is the third phase. And this is the phase which strongly went out in our education field. And therefore, this is the phase which really made a difference in education and knowledge seeking. We get degrees, and that's education. Knowledge seeking is something different. And therefore, understanding and copying is the phase in which we learned only from the books, repeated the same thing in the examination, got the marks, passed. Have we imbibed the knowledge? I'm sure that you must be recollecting, or you may recollect, the accident that had happened with Indian scientists at Antarctica. 5-6 scientists died at Antarctica. You know why? Basic misunderstanding of science which is taught in the school. In the school, it is taught that when you are in an enclosed room, please don't keep the lamp burning, because carbon monoxide increases in the atmosphere of the room and you become unconscious. 6 scientists died because they did not know carbon monoxide increases in an enclosure which doesn't have a vent out, which doesn't have a ventilator. Look at that. That is where understanding is more important. My daughter came from school in the second year, what is called upper KG, UKG. She brought a chit from her teacher saying that she refuses to say beyond 10. I asked her, what is this? Look, Baba, after 20, it is 21, 22. After 30, it is 31, 32. After 40, it is 41, 42. Why not 10, 1, 10, 2? Why 11, 12, 13, 14? By heart, some 9 spellings for nothing. Except that place, they don't come in. Why this? Now, this kind of questions we don't ask. And therefore, a very interesting seminar at Madras, and Tyagarajan, who was former Vice Chancellor of Madras University, he was speaking, and it was researchers. And he had gone hammer and tong on the copying and pasting, plagiarism. He said plagiarism is the day today. Then I was to speak later on. Who taught plagiarism to our students? We. The teachers taught plagiarism to the students, and the best plagiarist in the class gets 99% marks, because he or she takes it from the books as it is, repeats it in the answer scripts, and gets maximum marks. A person who runs the brain, and that is the basic work of a teacher and education. The person who runs the brain, unfortunately, gets somewhere between 50 to 20%. Therefore, the phase of understanding and copying is the one which is gone. Now, in the post-COVID, we are going to prepare this slides, PowerPoint presentation, which have only points and less power. If you observe I just pick the point, and there is a lot of information beyond the point that I give. PowerPoint presentation is not to read out the 7 points and then go to the next slide. Now, systematizing the process of learning. This systematizing the process of learning is something which is very interesting. Teacher is the one who is not to exhibit the knowledge in front of the student, but to make the student enter into the mind of the teacher. And this is possible only if the teacher allows the student to run the brains. And this running the brains is going to be difficult with the internet learning. There, possibly we may have to only give a small bit to the student and a large homework. I tell you one thing, that I was teaching central limit theorem in statistics at Gokhale Institute. And I have this very nice methodology of teaching. I made the mistake while deriving in the second line itself, purposefully. And one girl by the name Elizabeth got up, sir, there is a mistake. And I asked her, what is the mistake? I'm a good dramatist. What is the mistake? I made eyes and all. And she said, sir, it should be like this. And then said, I asked her, and then she told the third step, then fourth step, fifth step, and finally she derived the whole central limit theorem. And I tell you, that year's examination, I had put specifically a question of derivation of the central limit theorem, and everyone in the class answered correctly. That's the thing which is assimilation, that is systematizing. Top-down approach of learning and teaching. We have imbibed only the top-down approach.
Sir?
That the teacher gives, student takes down.
Excuse
That's not
me,
the
sir.
thing. Huh?
So sorry to interrupt you. Are you using earphones?
Yes?
Are you using earphones?
Yes?
Can you take the microphone near to your mouth while speaking, so that the volume will be a little louder?
Are you okay now?
Yes, yes, sir. Very much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Now the top-down approach, we have learned this top-down approach from our teachers, and then their teachers, etc. This top-down approach has come actually from the Western world. Western world had this top-down approach. Indian teaching methodology was group approach. And that is why it was called a Gurukul system. That the guru does certain things and the teachers, the students learn it. It was not a lecture and listening and afterwards going out. It was not that. And therefore, the top-down approach as against involving approach, learning and teaching approach, is something which is essential. That is going to be difficult in the post-COVID scenario. And therefore, I feel that somehow or the other, after the lectures through internet, the students must meet at least once in a month, spend one full day along with teacher at a place which is neither of the teachers nor of the students. And therefore, they will assimilate with each other. It is not knowledge dispensers which we need to manufacture. And we do not manufacture a market of education. The moment we call education as knowledge dispensing, a dispenser or a market for it, that you prepare the student for the market, nothing else is required. Unfortunately, that is not education. And therefore, the last phase in which we got was commercialization. A large commercialization took place, and we have had a huge number of privately owned colleges, privately owned institutions, and most of them focus on the profit earning in monetary terms than profit earning in knowledge terminology. Now, average teacher today, as on today, is the one who relies on the old text, old notes, taught by the earlier teachers or to himself by others, not comfortable with the new technology, not comfortable with new traits. And I had prepared a syllabus, given it to a university which is very prominent in Maharashtra. And the Board of Studies said, sir, this is difficult. We cannot do it. It's difficult for the teachers. But teachers have to learn first and give it to the students. Only then the students can enhance themselves from what they have learned earlier. Refuse to acknowledge that the students know something. Teacher refuses to acknowledge that student, you keep quiet, follow the textbook. This is said in the textbook. And the conformist, the teacher are the conformist. They conform only to the given books and given strategies. Whereas the average student is also changed. The average student uses mobile on and off in the classroom, comfortable in handling the technology, which the teacher is not. In fact, if the teacher gets into a problem of mobile, goes to the student. Wi-Fi, YouTube, iPad, blogs, discussions, hooked onto the Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Now, there is an opportunity as well as a problem with all these. Opportunity in the sense that the teacher has to get to the student through these. If the teacher doesn't want to get to the student through these, possibly the student happen to be an independent entity group. Then the students are reluctant to acknowledge the teacher. Earlier, we used to call our teacher and used to acknowledge that I learned from. Student today doesn't acknowledge because student doesn't stay with the teacher that long. And today's student is a rebel and is an innovator. Now, rebels and innovators are the ones who can be sculpted, who can be chiseled into the brilliant most and the best students. I can assure you that the worst or the most mischievous of the class would be the best student. But in the post-COVID scenario, this is unlikely to happen because you won't be able to test a student face to face. And therefore, we are likely to prepare kind of students who will be like robots, who will know things, but who will not be knowledgeable about things. There is something which we confront often, and I call it as curriculum or syllabus. Syllabus is like a paddock or a corral. Paddock or corral, that picture shows what is a paddock or what is a corral. It's an enclosure of the horses. The horses are put and simple bamboos are put around. Horses feel that they are confined to that. Today, our teachers as well as students, we feel we are confined to this syllabus as a corral. We do not want to go out of the syllabus. The moment a teacher tells something which is very new, student tells, sir, this is out of syllabus. But you should have skill to connect the syllabus with the current scenario. If we are teaching inflation in the class, you should be able to connect it with the RBI's repo rate. No, repo rate comes in monetary economics. I am teaching macroeconomics. Unfortunately, this syllabus and compartmentalization has really cut our knowledge expanse. We are now myopic in the knowledge that has ended. Lack of preparing students for the problem solving skills, and then gap between what is taught and what is required. The student tells you what he requires or what she requires. We need to pick from them and give them what they want. I would prefer, and I follow that. I prefer a methodology of making the student to learn before coming to the class. And I just ask them to tell me what they have learned. And I ask the questions, they answer it. If they don't answer it, I give wrong answers so that they correct it. They feel happy when the teacher is defeated. And I feel happy that they have learned. They are defeated is not my pain. But I'm happy that they have learned because they defeated me since I gave wrong answers. There's a gap between need and delivery. We deliver certain things, but the needed things are totally different. And what are needed things are the connect today's world. Professor C.T. Kurian, one of the famous theoretical economists, had written a book. Now he is about 87 years old. Just a year back, he wrote a book and I reviewed it. The book is Real Economics. This real economics is something which challenges the basic fundamentals which we teach in the classroom. Unfortunately, we have been teaching those fundamentals irrespective of their applicability. And when we teach indifference curve, it is very difficult for the student who has just passed out of matric to understand a theoretical concept of indifference curve. We have to play with it. Knowledge as a delivery and assimilation, I spoke about it. There's one thing which Stephen had said when he was teaching in the class. He said, students of today are being taught by the teachers of yesterday with a curriculum which is of day for yesterday. Exactly the thing which we have been following for decades. Now with the post-COVID scenario, we need to first attack our curriculum, metamorphosize it, make it really applicable to today's tools and techniques, which really tells the student what the, you see, because of the development of education and the changing phase, the role of privatization in the education system has initially, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. But I'm against those who compromise quality of education as against the profits in monetary terms. You see, by 1991, we had 137 state universities. Today, we have got double of it. The deemed universities, by 1991, we had only 29. And today, we have 100 added to it. Similarly, the private universities, we had beginning with 2005-6 when the universities bill has come, it had only 7 in the entire country. By 11-12, we are 112 and we have crossed 200 now. The reason being, certainly the moment we accepted open market economy, privatization will creep in, but that needs to get into the quality of education. What are the drivers of the teacher quality? Quality of education goes through the quality of the teacher. The teacher's first quality is aspiration to provide top quality education to the student. Look into various references, different books, different theoretical constructs, different practical applications, and every year differently taught. Staying with the current knowledge and providing the student what they need is more important than what I have prepared. In fact, if the student brings in front of us a new problem which is non-solvable, we have to make efforts to teach. And this is possible through internet. Nowadays, employability is the key. But then, employability alone should not be the key. Quality should be the key. Development of strong employability entrepreneurs and creation of skills of our graduates is something which is Ministry of Human Resource Development has said on their website. But if you just want to have employability, we don't need BA graduates. We need people who can handle screwdrivers, spanners. We need people who can handle machines and operate machines. We need to know, we need to prepare the drivers of the machines and mechanics. No, we need also knowledge enhancement, writing skills, the skills of operating in the human society, the skills of maneuvering human beings. All those are important things. Changing of the role of teacher from syllabus bound, which is Mason kind of thing, to creator of a knowledge. And today we need to convert knowledge to a hobby. Only if it becomes hobby. Why did I become agricultural economist? I don't have land. I have never plowed a field. I do not plow. I do not know how to sow. But then agriculture economics and agriculture became my hobby, and therefore I could excel in it. The moment knowledge becomes a hobby, one can excel, and knowledge becoming hobby is something which the teachers' responsibility now in the post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we had face-to-face interaction with the students, and we had a clear access to the ear of the student. Today, we don't have access to the ear, we have access to the earplug. He takes it out and keeps it. We don't know whether he is listening or not listening. Emerging research, knowledge, and transfer of transfer strategy identifies links between the entrepreneurship, knowledge, and employability. Now let me come to what is expected by NAAC from the teachers. Unfortunately, I have been seeing colleges which get accredited with NAAC. I personally, if you ask me, I don't have too much of faith in the process of accreditation, but the process is well grounded. Now, why I don't have faith? Because I attended maybe nearing 100 accreditation committees and have gone. Everyone knows that before the committee comes, NAC committee comes, the college is painted, everything is painted, including the teachers are painted. They come with a good makeup, good dress, and there is something which is a badge, which they never use it throughout the life afterwards. Only for the NAC, they will hang it on their neck to identify themselves. Afterwards, they throw it in the dustbin. That's not necessary. What is necessary is, are you a popular teacher? Are you recognized by the college and everyone around the college? The badge is not necessary if you are recognized. The 7 criteria, I was involved right from Nigvekar's time with NAC, forming the criteria, trying to get into the methodology of giving marks, giving grades, making the grades. It's all that. Quite a few meetings I attended at time of Prasad, at time of Nigvekar. Everything went through systematically and absolutely scientifically, because quite a few NAC directors were scientists and they wanted to see that the field of education is best. Now these 7 criteria, as you know, curriculum aspect, teaching learning process, research innovation. In fact, you can learn it on the screen. You can read it on the screen. But most important for the teachers are criteria 2, 3, and 5. Now criteria 2 is teaching, learning, and evaluation. Criteria 3, research, innovation, and extension. And criteria 5 is student support and progression. Teachers have the responsibilities of these 3 criteria rather than anything else. Unfortunately, whenever I have visited the IQAC room of every college, the rest of the things are taken care of. My simple question to the IQAC coordinator always had been, show me what have you done, because internal quality assurance cell, quality assurance, what have you done in the meetings on quality assurance? Sir, we had allocated what should be done for the NAC preparation to different departments. Okay, good. Sir, we are allocated for the cultural program. Good. Sir, we are allocated different teachers to different NAC members. What is the quality assurance? What have you done for that? Sir, feedback system. And the feedback system never discussed with the teacher. The feedbacks are always good. Now, I will speak about these 3 criteria and end up the lecture. The first one, criteria 2, teacher, teaching, learning, and evaluation. Teaching and learning process. What is expected by NAC from the teaching and learning process? Actually, the NAC members and the chairman of the NAC team is supposed to ask, and I is supposed to ask, what is the student-centric method you have developed? Sir, there's a smart board. That's not student-centric. Sir, we use PowerPoints. That's not student-centric. What is student-centric? Student-centric in the sense that what does the student want to learn and what do I give? From the syllabus you give, how much you go to the extension of the syllabus. Is there any experiential learning? When you teach demand, theory of demand in the class, do you experiment with the demand? When you teach public finance in the class and we talk about the budget, do you make an experiment in order to show you how the budget preparation should be? What should be the methodologies for allocation while preparing the budget? What should be the tax system? What should be the tax system? What kind of taxes are regressive, which are progressive? What will happen of the incidents and what will be the impact on the population? All these have to be learned through the experiments. You need to conduct a market experiment, like what happens when the price rises, why the Kincaid demand curve arises. In the classroom we teach, this is Kincaid demand curve, this is reverse sloping demand curve. nothing gets into the brain. But then if you lay experiment with say berries, you bring some grapes and then put some prices on the grapes and then try to show what way the reverse sloping demand curve works. That is experiential learning. Participative learning. How many times have you taken the class in the non-classroom atmosphere, in the canteen or in the garden or near the playground? How many times did you teach them at the playground? Teaching does not mean board and chalk. What is the problem solving methodology? Did you get stuck in a problem and ask the student to solve the problem? Teacher profile and quality is another thing. What is teacher profile? And whenever I visit many colleges, there are teachers who have 88 international publications. I am surprised. A college at taluka level has 88 international publications, something unimaginary. And the International Conference on Indian Economy after Liberalization at Pandrakauda. This is international publication of the teacher. Now, a teacher who doesn't understand the meaning of international puts rightly in the profile that I have 87 or 88 international publications, something which need to be looked into. And it is quite visible because this NAC team is not from the market. They're all experienced teachers who know what their job is. And when they look at it, they know how much the teachers are bluffing, how much is the college telling lies, and there goes the grading system. The quality of the teacher comes out while walking, sitting with the dinner, just a simple question, just a few. Oh, have you read Friedman's? Right? Sir, Friedman we don't teach, sir. What is the book about? Sir, it is on public finance. Ah, I see, good. He has not done anything on price theory, right? No, sir, Friedman has not worked on price theory. Right, you come to know the quality of the teacher within a second. And you know what the quality is. The next one is evaluation process and reforms. Yesterday, I had a call from a friend of mine that I have an internal examination and there are students who have done, who are good, brilliant, but possibly they have written in a hurry. They are getting less than passing mark. What do? I said, call the student, ask him to rewrite it. Sir, but evaluation date is over. You have to evaluate the student. Date is only an instrument. Evaluation is a process. Date is an instrument. And I did that evaluation process in agriculture economics. I used to give the question right at the beginning of the session. In July, I'll say that in the semester end examination, you will get a question. The question will be, what is the major problem you feel of Indian agriculture? Analyze it and indicate the methods to solve it. This will have highest marks among the questions that are given in the question paper. 25 marks for this. All other questions will have 15 marks. And the question is given at the beginning of the semester. The student has to learn throughout the semester. He knows what is the question going to come and can score 25 out of 25 if the answer is innovative. And answer will be totally different for every student, will not be the same. No student can copy from the other student. That's the evaluation process. That's the evaluation process, and reforms have to be introduced by yourself. Sir, but it is the university which gives the examination. We have no right to give the question papers and do questions like what we want to. But very well, we teach for 6 months, and I don't think any principal stops you giving an examination, mid-term examination or a Saturday examination at your will in your teaching class. Nobody stops. But then we have created a corral around us like the horses, that we shall not get out of the system that is given. And if we don't want to get out of the system, we cannot prepare good student and good quality teachers. Next point is student performance and learning outcomes. You ask the students a simple questions. I went to a college, a science college. MSc chemistry is being taught. Sir, we have post-graduation in MSc in chemistry. I call finally a student. I said, hey, bring some phosphorus and keep it on my hand. He said, wait, sir. He brought the bottle, phosphorus bottle. Before he was about to keep it on my hand, his teacher said, wait. I said, why wait? Let the student answer it. Student doesn't know what happens if the phosphorus is kept on the hand. Now this is MSc final year student. This I knew in my matriculation. Now therefore, the student performance and learning outcomes are not the marks. Student performance and learning outcomes, the NAAC team looks into how the progression has taken place. There is one hollow thing which NAAC has introduced called Student Satisfaction Survey. And this is actually done in front of the teachers. And I have reviewed about 30-40 student satisfaction survey, and not a single survey has students not satisfied with the college or with the teacher. What is the use of such survey? Because a survey is taken in order to improve. If you tell me that, sir, while giving your lecture, you were using too many times, okay, I will correct myself. Or well-being, well, I must say, well, the teacher is, well, the teacher's quality is important. Well, the teacher has to go to the college. Well, the teacher has, that is called well-wisher teacher. Sir, you use too many times well. I pointed it out 100 times well in the entire class. Teacher will improve. And student satisfaction survey has to help the college and the teacher to improve, not to hide their deficiencies. Unfortunately, the survey as a tool is used to hide the deficiencies of the college and the teachers. Criteria 3, promotion of the research and facilities. There are rarely teachers who take up innovative projects. Sir, there is no funding. Some simple research does not require funding. It requires your initiative. Resource mobilization for research is an important thing, but for that efforts have to be made. Sir, we applied ICIS, sir, but ICIS, sir, how many times did you apply? Sir, last year we applied. Before that, no, sir. Once you applied and you did not get it and you say they don't give us. You prepare it well. This is an important thing as far as post-COVID is concerned. Research publications. Teachers give very little attention to this. One of my friend called me on telephone and said, sir, there is a student of yours whose student has submitted a thesis and these are the mistakes. What do I do? I said, crash it. Don't leave it. Crash it, whosoever it is. Sir, but the guide may misunderstand. It doesn't matter. When we criticize, it is for the purpose of improvement. Still, if the person doesn't improve, one of my teachers used to forget the buttons in the proper sequence. And people used to fear to tell him. Unless we tell him, he cannot put it in proper sequence. Therefore, criticizing and not back scratching is something which is an important thing. I do it for my students, I do it for my friends, and we should do it all together. We are teachers in order to improve the quality of the student. This is going to be difficult in the post-COVID because you are not going to be face to face. Today, one of the participants, I can see that person, the finger is pointed to anybody, is not happy with what I am talking. But is why tell Deshpande, sir, he is too senior to talk about will not improve if he does not know his problems. The thing is that the innovation of the ecosystem, research publications and awards are essential, but this should be real. Consultancy, extension activities, among these, the extension activities, one thing which the teachers do it full heart in it. They go to the village, clean the road, blood donation camp, teaching camp, gender awareness camp, all that they do. As far as consultancy in the subject, no. As far as collaboration, no. Collaboration, we had it with an industry. There is an MOU. What did you do with them? Nothing. That is something which is quite an important. Student support and student progression is an indicator of the teacher's quality. Faculty empowerment strategies of the college, sir, but they don't give it to us. Unless we ask, nobody gives. And therefore, this is an important, some important considerations. This is last but one. Standardization vis-a-vis customization. Standardization is what is done through syllabus, what is done through my last year's notes, what is done through my understanding earlier. When Daftardar madam called me, I misunderstood the topic. I thought teaching of social sciences in colleges. I immediately sent her a writing which I had done for a very good book. For about a week's time, I just relaxed. I sent her another presentation. A part of that, a few of those slides are taken here, not all. We should use our knowledge stock, but every time we have to give new things in the knowledge stock. Standardization is what we had followed earlier, that over years, the same textbook, over years, the same notes, over years, the same way I teach. Customization is every time I customize my teaching in a different way so that the students get interested. One of my teacher in college, physics professor, Professor Mane, we used to know that in the December end, he will crack one joke. Okay, students, we will meet only in the next year. And we all used to purposefully keep silent, and he alone used to laugh. The kind of thing is, this is routinization of teaching. We need to have customization of teaching. Growing up and not just growing old. Growing up in the sense, when I was to prepare this presentation, I had added some slides, which is my growing up. Growing old, I cannot stop it. Already celebrated my 70th birthday with all my children, almost 20 of them, PhD students, gathered on this webinar and talked about it. And each one of them said that, sir, you have a unique method of throwing us to the winds. You never catch our hand till we are totally being blown off. And yes, my students did cry also when I get angry. Therefore, it is not just growing old. It is growing up for every teacher, every day, every class, every time. To construct and not merely to confirm. We need to construct every time a new theory, a new interpretation, a new way of teaching, a new example every time, and not to confirm the old theories, old exam, same textbook over years. Change the syllabus as many times. And one of the questions asked by the NAC team, how many times do you change the syllabus? So university decides the syllabus and we follow that. But bloody well, you can take another book to teach the same thing. It will be told, you teach price theory. I know very well that price theory is not taught from Henderson and Quant. It's not taught from John Hicks also, not from Friedman. It is taught from some Verma, Sharma, Tarma, or from local author who have copied. Sir, this time I took John Hicks' book to the classroom. And the question which I asked Professor Kurian's review, This is a very interesting question for those who are in economics. We teach microeconomics. Microeconomics was called also theory of value. It was also called a theory of price. As a graduation in physics, I entered into MA economics. Madam didn't tell that I am a science student, an honors in physics, entered army, came back from army, took admission to economics. And when I entered the class of economics, I asked this question. John Hicks' book is theory of value. Friedman is theory of price. Are the price and value the same concepts? My teacher said that you are not from economics background. I said no, because value is different, sir. My pen price is 10 rupees, but this pen is given to me by Rattar madam as a gift, as a token honor. Its value is not 10 rupees. Its value is thousands. This pen is given to me by my teacher when I completed my thesis. Its value is few thousand rupees. Its price is 10 rupees. He said, this is not taught in economics. And years later, it came in environmental economics. The price of environmental good and value of environmental good. Growth in harmony with yourself and the world around. Grow with yourself, one must grow. And I find that we, the teachers, we do not grow, we feel self-contained. We need to grow with ourselves as well as with the world. And this is last side. Pay attention to these points. They are very simple points. Assessing the learning levels of the students. And learning levels of the students can be assessed in various ways. You can ask questions randomly. You can give a test unannounced. You can arrange experiments in economics. You can arrange experiments in sociology. Special programs for the advanced and slow learners. This can be taken by yourself or through the internet. Student-centric versus syllabus-bound methods. Our method should be student-centric. And with the COVID or with the internet availability, we have a challenge in front of us because the students read more than what we read. And students read various places. Ask the students what they have learned in this. Tomorrow, tell them, tomorrow I'm going to ask you the question about what are the critics of theory of demand. And the one who gives the best answers, let them read, let them plagiarize, let them read anybody. But let them tell. Innovative and creative learning and first to learn and teach creatively. Until now, we were teaching like robots. We need to teach now with a full creativity. Continuous internal evaluation. It is necessary that we evaluate ourselves internally. Internal evaluation is usually, sir, internal evaluation is, no, I'm not talking that. I'm talking our own evaluation. Continuous internal evaluation of the self. We need to know our evaluation as a teacher, as the students. Have you understood this? Shall I clarify it? Transparent and robust internal assessment. Transparency in examination related grievances. My internet is giving some problem and the warning is coming up. Program and course outcomes displayed on the website, and our own teaching should be displayed to them before. Let them ask the questions. Whatever questions they ask, try to answer. If not, tell them that tomorrow I'll read and answer it to you. Nothing is wrong. It doesn't make you small. In fact, it makes you knowledgeable. It makes you lot of knowledgeable. The very simple question I put to all of you, that what is the economics of vaccine as against remedial drug in COVID? Work it out and you will see that It is the economics of vaccine that is working very strongly in the international community as against economics of remedial drug. There exactly your innovativeness gets into. Extension activities in the neighboring community. I have seen the extension activities. They copy it from elsewhere. Blood banks, sir, we started blood donation camp. We cleaned the roads. Extension activity means imbibing civil sense, imbibing your own scientific temperament into them, imbibing your own economic understanding to them, imbibing your own understanding and knowledge to them. Blood bank or cleaning up the road, making the gutter, teaching them something gender sensitive. These are something which are absolutely common. We need to be innovative in that. Friends, the internet teaching has posed a greater challenge in front of us. In fact, if I were to be teacher on the internet, I would have given up my profession. I would have resigned, because the way I feel my warmth of my student in the classroom, I don't feel on the internet. The way I feel if I lecture in the classroom, in the seminar hall, I get, it's like singing. When the audience in front of you is absolutely responsive, Kumar Gandharva sings the best possible. I think many of you would have seen Bhai, Pula Deshpande, movie on Pula Deshpande. In that there is a mahfil of Kumar Gandharva. It's actual mahfil. Look at that, the wonderful way they get involved into the mahfil. Unfortunately, the internet will take my audience out of my heart. They will place them onto the screen, and I will not be able to feel the vibrations of them. If I don't feel their vibrations, possibly I will not be able to teach anything better than what I have done all through these years. Many thanks to you all. Daptardar Madam, specifically thanks to you for inviting me to this August gathering with all the wonderful people here. I'm grateful to you. Very nice. Any questions? I welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable and informative session on the topic changing face of education and a role of teacher expected by NAC. You have given thrown light on education. What is education? It is a value addition, and you also shown informative slides on criteria 2, 3 of teaching learning process, research innovations and expected extensions, and you have also shown information relating to the NAC role of teacher in a NAC. Sir, our participants are having questions. Some of the questions raised by our participants are like Ms. Jyotsna Haran, who is a professor in Aditya Birla Institute of Management, has raised the question: how to take teacher aware of education 4? How to take teacher aware in education 4?
In education?
4. There is a difficulty in acceptance on the part of teachers. Education 4, new concept introduced, sir. It is.
Oh, one thing is, you cannot take a horse to the water. Horse has to go to the water. You cannot take. So basically, there's a flaw of taking the teacher somewhere. We make this, and the crux of my lecture is to make you feel that you should go to education 4. It should not be, I take you to education 4. All along, all through our education system, we have been giving from the top to bottom, and the bottom acceptance is taken for granted. And this taking for granted is not imbibing education, but rather forcing education onto their brains, into their brains.
Thank you, sir. Other participant, Dr.
They can ask the question on this chat.
Yeah, on chat.
I can read that.
We have selected, sir. Yeah.
Hmm.
Dr. Mansi Gore from Savitribai Phule University, Pune, has asked the question: how do you see virtual learning and teaching? Do you think it will replace the existing learning and teaching system?
Nice, Malti. Nice to see you on this webinar. Good thing that you attended. Now, as far as virtual learning and teaching is concerned, I said that I prefer the mehfil of students around me. Virtual learning and teaching would take us little away from the students. In fact, there was a cartoon some time back that in the virtual class, a student prepared his photograph neatly and placed it in front of the screen. Teacher thought that the student is listening and this fellow is playing cards. Therefore, it is necessary that virtual learning should be accompanied by at least once in 15 days or once in a month, the classroom getting together with the teacher and the teacher clarifying the doubts. The students must bring the doubts. Everyone must bring 5 questions from the subjects what is taught or even out of the subject. And then the teacher answers each one of them. That will make the virtual learning a success. Otherwise, virtual learning is virtual passing. Like there are many virtual examinations and virtual degrees, which we get.
Thank you, sir. There is a question from Dr. Bhika Jadhav, who is from Jawahar, who is associate professor, whether online teaching learning is possible in rural areas.
Very difficult because we don't have proliferation of technology to the rural areas. But I will desist because I belong to a rural area, small village I was born in. In rural areas, teaching methodology is far better than in urban areas. In rural areas, we connect with the student. When I go to the rural colleges, I feel very happy that connection between me and the college student is 1:1. There are hundreds, but it is 1:1. When I teach in Pune University or when I teach in any of the Bangalore University or any of the metropolitan cities, the 1:1 connection is not established. They are there. They are physically present. But then I have to tell that, look here what I am talking. This is not true in rural areas. So one thing is, it will be difficult to take it there. But second, it will be dangerous to take it there.
Thank you, sir. One of the participants has raised a question. Pace of education has changed drastically, but there has been no change in evaluation of teaching abilities or effectiveness of methods implemented by teachers. What should be the criteria of assessment or effectiveness of teaching learning in post-COVID era?
In the post-COVID era, the teacher has bigger challenge for evaluation because the student has internet at his stake and the student can answer from the internet very easily. The post-COVID era, the teacher has to prepare questions which the student, first the teacher should see whether answer is available on internet, and when the answer is not available, only put the question so that the student has to apply brains in order to answer the question. So post-COVID, teacher has bigger challenge in evaluating the student than the student's challenge of answering the teacher.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Mabel Lobo has asked a question. Is curriculum restricts to syllabus or it includes other activities conducted at institutional level?
That is exactly I call curriculum as the pedagogy, where the horses named teachers are encircled with bamboos, what is called syllabus. And the horses which can throw them easily out doesn't want to go out of the bamboo to graze on the very greenery outside. Teacher want to stay in the syllabus, student also wants to stay in the syllabus, And this is the one which is the first rate enemy of knowledge among students. The first enemy of knowledge is the syllabus, which is years together kept the, and allows any change in the syllabus. I can tell you that several universities, I have been going to the board of studies and resigned from the board of studies, because the moment you put a new book or a new topic, sir, it will be difficult for the student. No, it is not difficult for the student. It's difficult for the teacher who is speaking to understand that, and therefore doesn't want to teach that. Would like to take salary, would like to call himself or herself as a teacher, but doesn't want to teach that. And that's the problem. Therefore, the going out of the syllabus, teaching something which is current, teaching something with applications is an essential component, which is actually extension of the syllabus.
Okay. Sir, last question for the session. With your permission, is NAC applicable only for UGC approved colleges or not for technical colleges?
It depends on the, it's applicable for technical colleges. Technical colleges are AICTE bound, but NAC is also applicable.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
I'm giving my phone number and email address in the chat.
Okay.
Those somebody had asked for my email address and telephone number, I have given that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now